Hey, it's Tom from Tom's Toons. Today I'm at the shop by myself and I've got a railing to repair. That's no good. I'm gonna fix them and take you along for the ride, and then we gotta do a little welding on this boat too to get the Bimini bracket back in place. Let's get to work on it. This is a 19 or 20 foot Sweetwater, and if you're ever working on a boat and you're trying to figure out what year it is, or you bought a boat, you're not sure what year it is, those last two digits, this is a 12 number HIN or hull ID number, those last two digits are your year. So most boats from the mid or late 70s on up, this is a 2006, they're gonna have this tag on the back starboard side of the boat. What we've got to do is get this panel flattened out the best we can and back in. This is kind of it's a budget fix. We're not replacing everything because that's a whole can of worms. We're just gonna get this flattened out the best we can and work it back in. This is where the paneling is on the inside of the railing. So let's hop in and I'll show you what it looks like and how we're gonna go about this repair. If we take a peek of how the railing is put in, this is done at the factory where they press this lip here and at the bottom over top of this panel. So it slides in, or they actually lay it in, I'm sure, and then they use a roller or press to press it down. What I gotta do is I started it here. I use a little paint scraping tool. I work this under with a rubber mallet and I just gently bend this lip out. If I bend it too far, too aggressively, too fast, it will crack. Worst case in there, we use some rivets to hold it back in. I'm gonna inch my way around the corner here and I'm gonna get this to where I can kind of bend this panel, get it out so that I can flatten it, because these wrinkles like this, they're not gonna work. We gotta get those flat so we can reinsert it. Same thing at the bottom. And then we'll bend the outside tab as well so we can reinsert it that way too. Lots to do on this one, but it's just a gentle, slow process to get this lip bent out so we can flatten the panel and get it back in. I've done a clamp flipped to spread it. That's just bought me probably 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch to actually get in here. Now I can almost just straighten this panel out real carefully. Probably gonna have to grab a piece of metal, a little hammer, maybe some pliers, and I can start to flatten this so I can reinsert it. Then the magic will come when I have to work it back into this edge piece here. So I gotta flatten this on the top, this on the bottom. It's not wanting to come all the way out. Sometimes you can kind of put a little bit of bend in it, but it's already creased a little bit where it was hit. So I think I'm gonna have to flatten it and work it back in from here and on the bottom, and then get that end piece reinserted. So good challenge ahead of us, but we're up for it. Keep working at it, just slow and steady. And I think flattening these wrinkles out top and bottom is going to be a huge help. Panel is all back in. I didn't end up having to pull it all the way out. What I did is I just bent the lip up the best I could. I had to hit at it from the outside of the boat to bend that lip up. And then when I freed enough space between the clamp and that lip bending, I was able to actually work the panel flat with my hammer and my paint scraper to where it reinserted up in nice and flush. And then just ran it back in, took the clamp off, closed it down tight, and then tapped everything back in with my plastic mallet. So let's take a peek at it, what it looks like. It's a realistic expectation kind of thing here. It's not gonna look brand new. This panel, this aluminum was dented in. Once you put a dent in your car, you can hire a pro to work it out, pull it out. A lot of times, thin aluminum like this or thin sheet metal in general, it's hard to get a wrinkle or a dent perfect. Let's take a peek and see how good it looks. Just finished the, I don't want to say easy way, but still a lot of work to get in here and manipulate and do it properly without breaking the lip on your railing. And obviously doing it on the boat is a little harder than being able to manipulate it on a tabletop or on the floor. So really happy with how this came together. Let's take a peek from the outside. No more sharp edges. This boat's back together. Just a little bump, bruise, a couple little dings, dents. But all in all, once it got back in the panel, took shape again. Once the panel was actually able to spread out too, a lot of those wrinkles went away. I got a weld on the Bimini bracket, and then this boat is a wrap. Here's the Bimini bracket. It's been zip tied with a plate of aluminum. I mean, it's a good temporary fix. He was backing into the garage and caught the Bimini on the garage and broke this weld here, and the other side appears to be broken too with how much play is in here. I'm gonna pull this seat out because I need to get a better look at it, and if I want to weld it, I really need the seat out of the way. So we're gonna take a peek. Looks like we got a speaker to deal with. I don't think there's any lighting, but we'll just unhook our speaker, drop the wire back down through the floor if we need to, just enough to get this railing out of the way. But typically, we can just chase that speaker wire. It just unplugs like so from the speaker. Now I can move the seat once I remove a few screws. Typically, you're just gonna have a handful of stainless screws that are holding seats in. We'll get this out of the way and then we can look at what we gotta do to weld this back together. Here's what we got. He wasn't sure if the weld was broken on both sides, but indeed it is. We're just resting on here. Here's what I gotta do. I'm gonna cut the zip ties off, get rid of the aluminum plate. I have to get the anodized finish off of this aluminum rail and off of my bracket. I have to have that off in order to weld it. I mean, my welder might be able to punch through it, but it's gonna look terrible and I'm not gonna be confident in my weld. So we're gonna go ahead, take the bracket off the boat. I'll get that cleaned up. I'll sand off just the surface level. It's gonna look a little different at first. It's gonna be kind of a polished aluminum look instead of this oxidized faded. But within a couple years, that will look just like the rest of the railings and it'll function again, which I think is most important here. So I'm gonna go ahead, get things cleaned up, and then we'll get the TIG welder up here on the boat and I'll get this put back on. There you go. That is welded back on. On the inside, I cut a little bit of the anodizing, but still got a good weld on it, good grab. The outside, we'll scrub that down with a Scotch-Brite. Just take the shine off of it a little bit, and that's gonna help it oxidize in there and match the rest of the railings over time. Take a year or two, but it'll look like it's never been done. The weld, that is. If you're shopping for a welder, maybe you're a hobby guy at home or you want to get into aluminum welding, this will weld stick welds and will do DC TIG as well, but it also does aluminum. For the affordability, the size, get a little tank of argon. You can really play around with this and dial it in, and you can get darn good welds on aluminum with some practice. If you shop at Yes Welder, we've got a coupon code in the description of this video. It helps our channel out every time we make a purchase there, and it saves you 10% on your welder. Lots of good accessories, gloves, helmets, everything at yeswelder.com. Check them out if you haven't. That's a wrap on this boat. We got our panel fixed up. We got our Bimini bracket welded back up. I'm gonna put the seat back in, And then this boat's going home today. Thank you for watching. Comment below. Let us know if you have any questions or how you think this turned out for just a couple hours in the shop. Fairly quick fix.